Okay, yeah, thanks everyone for coming. To learn more about your performance tool portal. So there are some newish faces in the room. Stuart, you're not that new at this point, are you? You've been here for a little
Definitely
while now.
new. I'll always be the newest.
For those that are maybe on the call, just for a bit of background, Portal is our website application. It was developed in-house. We launched it at the start of 2023, and it has the ultimate goal of being your one-stop shop for all your performance needs. So for some of you, I think this is becoming the case, particularly in operations. You guys are using it now on a sort of day-to-day basis, especially with the introduction of mission control. And for others, I think there's work still to be done. But in summary, just to run through a couple of points, Portal can help you to demonstrate control across key areas. So some departments have come to us and said we want to be able to show our compliance with these metrics, and I think we've done that. Fleet objectives is a good example of that. And the hope is, once we can demonstrate our performance through Portal, that will enable us to ask better questions of ourselves as well. So we can ask questions on the same information, often referred to as a single source of truth. So ultimately, that'll hopefully enable us to all stay curious and to be informed about what's happened, what's happening, and what's planned to happen next. And hopefully after today, you'll know a bit more about Portal, how we got here, how it's relevant to you, or how it could be. So, slides. I've only got 6 to go through, so yeah, I'll try to be quick with them. So we're going to start off with a little introduction to the team, the Portal team, the people that make it happen. Despite being a digital team, we still need people to get stuff done. So I'll cover some of the key roles in our department that help to deliver Portal as a service to you. Explain a bit about how we got here as well, the journey so far. So we'll be going all the way back to 2021 to the present day, reviewing the journey. It's really a journey of Stellar's data, I would say. James, I think you agree with me on that one. It has been a journey. We've overcome a number of hurdles. So I want to give you guys an understanding of the work that's gone in the background. Portal's the front for all of this stuff, but there's a lot of foundation work that's been done to enable Portal to be what it is. So we'll run through that. And then following on from that, we'll go to the future goals. So we'll be looking at what our targets are for the remainder of this year. We've got a few ambitious targets to share Portal with clients. We've got a Shell's logo up on the screen there. We've got the fleet objectives as well, so I'll run through some of these things, the work that's been done so far and what our hopes are for some of these services that have been delivered. So we'll then go on to a live demo inside of Portal, and that's an opportunity for you to ask any questions if you have them. So I think, Jenny, you're going to manage Teams, so if anyone's got questions on Teams, just because there is a little bit of a delay, if you wouldn't mind putting your hand up, and then Jenna can interrupt me at a logical point to answer your questions. Please do ask questions. It is a two-way thing. So, yeah, the team. Meet the team. Together, everyone achieves more. I'm going to say on my slideshow. There we go. Together, everyone achieves more, and it's true for our Portal team. So, in the team, these are the core people that help us to deliver Portal on a day-to-day basis. We have quite a number of meetings throughout the week, where we sort of work on new features, and we also maintain existing things that have been delivered. So, to my left in the room, we've got Chloe and David. Chloe and David are both graduate business analysts. They joined us straight out of university. Chloe, you've got a good background in computing science and as well as a master's in data science. And Chloe so far has worked mostly within our data warehouse on the client filter work. And I'll explain a bit more about why that's important and how it's going to enable us to deliver Portal as a service to clients. And you've also done a lot with KPI development as well. So it's been really good having you in the team. David, again, graduate business analyst. You've got a background in software applications development at university. Really rounded set of technical skills, and you've helped us support us over a range of different things, including Power BI, Power Automate, and KPI development. There's a bit of a trend there with KPI development. Michael, our resident data engineer, probably the most academically qualified person in the team. He's definitely got a few more masters than most of us. But yeah, highly proficient at what he does. And most of the work we do is enabled by what Michael does within our data warehouse, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a little bit. We have Neil Jameson, hopefully he's on Teams. Neil's our ecosystem architect. He's worked at Stellar for 12 short years. He joined us from IT probably coming up for a year ago now, and he worked within our cloud services. So he manages basically the infrastructure that we use to support Portal. Portal's a software application and software like Windows, it needs hardware to run on, but the hardware that we have is virtual hardware. So he supports that. It is A big bit of work that goes on behind the scenes. And then we've got James Clark as well with the title Business Intelligence Developer, but he likes to remind me he doesn't just do Power BI, he also does data engineering and a whole load of other magic things behind the scene. Probably a whole lunch and learn that you could do just yourself. Again, 12 years at Stena. And yeah, James has developed the majority of the Power BI reports and portal, which I think is why people think you're maybe the Power BI guys, because you've done a lot of the good stuff in Power BI.
I have 0 credentials behind this.
Yeah, Power BI is a tool for all, and I think that's probably a point that we want to try and get across today. Yeah, okay, so Paul, a journey, looking back. So you're probably looking at this thinking, what on earth, we're here to talk about Paul, why are you talking about Digimax? What even is Digimax? Digimax is our data warehouse. So if I go all the way back on the top left to the inception of Digimax in 2021, this journey starts off with data, or rather the lack of data. So Portal is a bit of a chicken and egg. You can't really have Portal without data, and you can't really have data without having someone to display it. And Portal is where we display our data. So back in 2021, we realized, yeah, fairly early on, that was really when our department was first formed, just around COVID times. We realized that we had a data accessibility problem, and I wanted to tell a little bit of a story about why data accessibility is so important. In order to do that, I have to tell you about my previous role, which was a short stint when I worked with the NHS. And when I worked with the NHS, I was a business intelligence developer. And whilst I was there, I had access to the NHS managed SQL data warehouse. So they had all of their patient data securely stored within their own data warehouse, where we could go in and we could query the data, and ultimately aim to improve patient outcomes through doing that. So as part of my job there, I was tasked with automating performance reports that would be submitted to the Scottish Government and to various departments and disciplines across the health board. So yeah, 16 reports I managed to automate whilst I was there, covering A&E wait times, deaths, bed capacity, reports that we used to request grants or government funding. It was really good work. And ultimately, the work that I did there saved 650 man hours, is what we calculated it to be, with manual work each year, and it's done that ever since 2018. So yeah, usually you clap for that. My point is that the data was really accessible. They had a data warehouse. It was beautiful. It was all managed and looked after. The data was in a good format where we could easily work with it. And because of that, it was really easy to build reports on top of it. And that's why in such a short space of time, we managed to do those automations. We managed to produce all of those stats that were being requested in a relatively short space of time. And that was really a trending theme, I think, of the last 4 years, is the challenges that we have of getting access to data so that we can make it available through the various information services that we have. So fast forward to 2020, I joined Stena, not long out of uni. And I was tasked with developing Stena's first Power BI report. I still have that claim. Marine certificates. So that at the time, that was a completely new thing for Stena Drilling. And I remember asking my manager, Colin, at that point, okay, great, you've asked me to build your report. Now, how do I connect to the data warehouse? And he kind of pivoted in his chair and looked at me and said, there isn't one. Oh no. Shit is what I thought, actually. I actually thought at that point, well, this is for me, because it's so fundamental, really, having access to data. But clearly there was going to be a lot of opportunities and challenges, with getting that set up. And it was really a mountain that we'd have to climb. So yeah, that was also the same week that I learned that the Dew drive wasn't short for Stena Drilling's Google Drive as well. So that was equally disappointing news. So it was a bit of a rough start. Coming into Stena Drilling and realizing that the data sort of landscape wasn't really that well formed. We had a lot of systems in place, siloed systems. The data wasn't really that accessible. So that meant at the time that we had to do things in sort of historic way, which requires us to log into the source systems, do a data export, manually pull that data into our reporting tools. Probably stuff that you guys have been doing and can maybe continue to do as part of your day-to-day work. And that's fine, but if you're being asked to produce performance reports on the scale that we were being asked for, it's not really sustainable. It's prone to errors, and yeah, it's not really a long-term solution that we can well support. So we needed to do better, and that was what we went out to do. So again, yeah, Colin at the time tasked me with creating Stena Drilling's first data warehouse, and that's where we created the name Digimax, is where that name comes from. It was the sort of name that we would use to refer to all of the technologies that made a part of our data warehouse. So we got a nice little logo made for that. So yeah, we conducted a big review of all the modern ways to create and deliver data warehousing solutions, and we ultimately set on using a service called Synapse, which was a Microsoft service at the time, and it was a low-code approach, and we thought that that would work quite well for us. And at the time, based on the business case that we'd written, it looked like that was going to be the case. However, we did run into some challenges later on, but at that point, working with the care data, it was good. It was robust, and we managed to produce the care reports from the care observation system, which we also worked on at the time. So that was the start of our data warehouse back in 2021, the inception of Digimax. So now that Digimax had been built, we had a way to more easily get access to our data, but then we asked ourselves the logical next question: how do we now share this data with those who need it? So that led us on to some early conversations around the creation of a web service that people could log into and gain access to reports from a variety of sources. So that is the inception of Portal, or I should say the needs. So yeah, we wanted to easily distribute and share content, deliver a single source of truth, so one view of the same information across teams. I shouldn't need to explain why that is important. I also wanted to host custom and third-party information services, which were being requested at the time. That includes the Power BI reports. And ultimately, we wanted to deliver services for clients through a managed platform, and we are now very nearly at that point. But at the time, there was a lot going on, and we were a very small team. There was just 2, maybe 3 of us in the department at that point. So we didn't have the capacity within the team to take on software development. So the ball was rolling in the background with that one, and we continued to push on with the data warehouse in its current form and the current ways of sharing content. So then fast forward to March 2022, Michael joined the team, but that was only orchestrated through a need report that we had written up to the senior management team expressing our frustrations of working with and accessing data. The low-code approach that we'd set out with in 2021 wasn't all it was hyped up to be. There was hidden complexity. It was very challenging for us to debug and to error report, and it was also expensive. I mean, maybe not so expensive for standard drilling, but it wasn't what we wanted it to be. It was around £1,500 a month just to process the care data alone so that we could then distribute it. So it wasn't really a sustainable approach, because care is obviously one of probably a dozen, if not more, systems that we have across standard drilling. So you see the ramping costs as we were trying to integrate with further systems. So we decided to fail fast and carry the lessons learned to a new architecture. And at the same time determined that we had enough requirements to warrant a dedicated data engineer. So yeah, welcome Michael Drabina. Michael, as our data engineer or lead data engineer, would be responsible for connecting to all of these siloed systems. So Care, Maximo, IDS, Synergy, the list goes on. And he would be responsible for setting up what's called our ETL process. We have a lot of acronyms in our world as well. So ETL stands for extract from your source systems, transform the data into a workable format, and then load the data so that it can be viewed and shared. So that's where we start to talk about Portal, Power BI, and third parties. So how do we provision the data so it's in a nice format so that it can be easily worked with, which is really where the value is, right? Connecting to the data is where a lot of the challenges are, but the value is at the other end when you actually present the data to the relevant audiences. So there was a lot of work to be done there. And I've got a little note here. The consumer of information, data engineering is the upstream equivalent of both the driller and operator in the transformation of crude oil into petrochemicals. So my point is that data engineering is really important for the work that we do. And like James has made the point, you know, a lot of the work that you do these days is actually in the data engineering workspace within our data platform. So still a lot of work goes on there. But thanks to Michael and the rest of the guys, I think we're now going down the right path with this. A lot of technical skills are being developed within the team, but it's really well supported, and hopefully you, from your perspective, you see what is an uninterrupted service coming through into applications like Portal. So I would say a lot of work and a lot of ground has been covered with our data warehouse and data accessibility challenges. So then that leads on to our next challenge, which I spoke about previously, which is how do we now deliver these services? So we wanted to focus on our service delivery now that the data accessibility was improved. So at that point, August 2022, we set out to establish a partnership with a third party that we could use to build software. And the first project that we wanted to put their way was Portal. So yeah, we had the data, we had the vision. Now we needed the resources to deliver on that. So we partnered with a company based out in Kuching, out in Borneo, and that would enable us to access a pool of talented developers straight out of university from there. The benefit of this partnership is that Stena owns the intellectual property, so anything that we develop in Portal is ours to own. And our concern was, we see this with a lot of vendors that we work with, we give them our ideas and then before we know it, they're being used by competitors. And there's reasons to share ideas, but sometimes you want to maintain a little bit of an edge. So it was quite important to us that we retained the IP. So software is a Stena-owned product, and yet we have the right to customize it as we want. Which is also good because we can then set the roadmap as well. So January 2023, hopefully you remember that brochure that came out. It was like a long time ago now. So that's Portal version 1. So at that time we launched Portal with the slogan, "This is just the beginning," and we meant it. We have embedded Power BI introduced at that point. We have a map with a basic overview of the fleet, and we had documents. So it was the bare bones of what we were sort of striving to deliver. So fast forward to April 2023, we delivered real-time analytics, which is a Cognify service. So that's an embedded third-party service. That's not something that we've developed in-house, but we do like to embed with these third-party services if we can. It saves you having to log into another system, and it makes content easier to share both internally and shortly with clients as well. So then after that, we also added in Aztec, which is an engineering tool. I described as Google Maps for our rig. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at that at some point, but it's basically hundreds of 360-degree photos of all of our assets. So you can walk around and explore the vessel and sort of familiarize yourself with it. The engineering guys can use it to take measurements. They have like point cloud data as well overlaid within the actual Aztec solution. So it's a really useful tool for them when they're sort of spinning up engineering projects early on. And probably a lot of other teams use it as well for just communicating rig layout and whatnot. After that, we launched the digital twin as a proof of concept in August 2023. Now, digital twin, a bit of a sticking point for us, resource challenges, as well as, requirements that come to us from other directions. But we did write a business case for digital twin, or at least a proof of concept, and it was quite challenged. Costs for digital twin development, like any sort of AI with a third party, were really high. You're talking about £1,000 a day for a developer, and we were getting quotes for 3 of them full time, so £3,000 a day, 5 days a week. And it would have been, quite a long period of development as well. So the costs were really quite high, but there were some tangible benefits, but not enough near-term tangible benefits to really get rid of that. Warrant the costs. So we did a thorough review. We did look at other vendors. We looked at some local companies as well. And when we did that assessment, we were sort of looking to see if they could address some of the risks that have been outlined as part of that proof of concept. But unfortunately, there were just no vendors that were really meeting the mark. So that was a shame. So we kind of accepted at that point that we would try to deliver something ourselves, and if it could be done at a low cost, then it would be a good solution for the future. And hopefully you've had a chance to look at the digital twin at some point, but it is a neat solution in the fact that it runs on your machine. It doesn't require any virtual machines, which is another thing that this company out of Norway wanted us to use, was virtual machines. So it's all virtual hardware. It's all very expensive, and the real benefits you can make it make sense. So we launched it as it is, and we do have plans to revisit it. But obviously the team went through quite a big restructure around that point as well. So we've had shifting priorities and focuses. The digital twin is something that we want to revisit, and there's definitely a lot of value integrating it further with our asset management system, to look at asset maintenance, monitoring and planning. But there's definitely a lot of work that still needs to be done, and I will give you a chance to ask me about digital twin in a bit. So then May 2024, struggled to find an icon for this one. We revisited Portal's foundations. So it was quite a bit of time spent on this, because we really wanted to enable ourselves to create visuals and results within Portal easily. And prior to sort of reviewing the foundations, this was quite a time-consuming process. The calculations and sort of queries to our data platform were being written by the software development team. So they obviously aren't that close to the data. They're not that close to the systems geographically as well. So there was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of back and forth, and errors were being introduced when we were producing results. And it wasn't the best in terms of transparency, because everything was sort of built in like the back end where you can't see it. We couldn't see like really or show to people easily what are the queries, what are the caveats that are being sort of put in place on top of our data to produce a result. So it's really important. I think, Stuart, we've gone through this with a lot of the KPIs recently. It's agreeing, you know, what are we measuring and how are we sort of defining our KPIs, and making sure that people can read and understand that information and make it clear that, you know, we only include, for example, spills, hydrocarbon and non-hydrocarbon. What does that mean? What volumes are included? This stuff is all available and visible through our new approach. So we did a big review of the technology stacks that we had at the time, and we determined a new way that would enable us to actually write the queries directly within Portal. And that's the KPI development that I spoke about earlier on, that Chloe, David, I think everyone in the team has worked on that at some point. So it's a good approach, and it enables us to develop queries and to interrogate the data within Portal directly. So from our perspective, administering the tool and building new services for you, it's really manageable and lightweight, and it also, of course, aligns with our transparency aims as well. So I think that was worthwhile spending the time doing that. It was a good pivot, and I'll come on to sort of highlight what that change enabled. And then not shortly long after that, we had the graduates join us, and that's been really good. That's enabled us to accelerate Portal's development and sort of address some of the long-term plans that we had for the product. So then in September 2024, we launched Portal version 2. So this incorporated the changes that have been outlined in May. We introduced custom dashboards, which enables the rapid development of KPIs, and we also introduced fleet objectives as well as part of that. And at the same time, we sort of officially launched the digital twin in its proof of concept state. So then at the far end, March 2025, very recently, we launched Mission Control, which is something that we've worked on a lot with the operations department, ensuring that you have a full oversight of what's happened, what's happening, and what's planned to happen. And we also have real-time data in there as well. And I'll come on to do a demo of Mission Control in a bit. So looking forward, 2025, already quite a long way through 2025, but there's still a lot left to do for the rest of the year. So in June, the plan is to launch fleet objectives, and this will help with the rig manager objectives meetings. All the rigs will now have the same KPIs, at least core KPIs, that they'll benchmark themselves against. So that's going to be used for rig awards, and it's going to be used for the rig manager review sessions that happen once every quarter, roughly. Yeah, year-to-date performance, it seems to vary a little bit, but it's a good service, and it's something that's been led by the Pillars of Performance Initiative. So all of the pillars, they span care, innovation, and performance. There's 5 of them. It's probably worth doing a lunch and learn on just the pillars of performance alone. So the hope is that by the end of June, we'll have all of the KPIs that are part of fleet objectives approved by head of departments. Last week, we got Paul McDonald to sign off on 13 HSE KPIs, including perfect days, all the HSE events, TRIs, care card submissions. That's all been approved and validated now. So what you see in there is the single source of truth for those KPIs and those results. And we have the ability to not only query what's happened over the last, say, year, but we can go back for the last 2 years. So it's a good place to look at trends as well. But I'll come on to custom dashboards more in a bit. So June 2025, we also want to integrate with SharePoint. So the hope is that we'll pull in the SMS data into Portal. We've already got a connection set up thanks to IT with SharePoint Online. The move to SharePoint Online has actually enabled quite a lot of things to happen. But our hope is that we'll have the level 1 through to 5 documents available within Portal as a new SMS component, if you like. So it'll be all highly searchable, and hopefully it will just again bolster the sort of information that you can go in there and retrieve. So following on from that, we've got July, which is when we are hoping to release Portal to clients. This has been a long piece of work. We're currently working on what we're calling a client filter. And this is going to enable us to basically associate data that is entered or created whilst on contract with a client, with that client's contract. So we'll be able to map all of our data to client contracts, which is really important because we want to deliver these services to clients and have it be done in a sort of autonomous way. So the magic is really happening within our data warehouse to sort of link these silo systems together, and that again links back to the contracts that are mapped within IDS. So when clients log in, we'll be able to ensure that they're only seeing data that is relevant to them. Report instances will be set up to ensure we can aid collaboration in a controlled environment. So the plan is here that we'll also be able to monetize our data in the long term. So we'll have what's called like a basic version, and then we'll have a more elaborate version as well. So that is our hope, that we can not only aid collaboration, but we can also start delivering some unique services for clients that tie us into, or tie them into sort of working with us, or at least demonstrating that when they do work with us, we make it really easy to collaborate, and hopefully Portal will play its part in that. So we're trying to create a standard equivalent of Apple's ecosystem. Once you get an iPhone, it's really difficult to leave because it all integrates really nicely together. The same is what we're aiming to do with Portal. Once they use Portal, hopefully they won't want to go back and use whatever they were using before. So we're hoping it will be another unique selling point for Standard Drilling, basically. So then in August of 2025, we've got the mobile app. We're calling it Stena in your pocket. We'll see how that goes, but the hope is that it will be available via the App Store, and you'll be able to log in, and then once you're signed in, that'll be you. You won't have to sign in every day. It'll be available through a nice user interface on your phone. So we're striving for that. September, we're going to aim to progress further from fleet objectives to focus on department objectives and KPIs. So we've already had some departments reach out, had some interest from procurement and HR as well, have expressed interest to develop their own custom dashboards. So that's something that we're going to work towards. And then at the very end of the year, in October, we have got the business analyst function. So Chloe, David, and myself were all training up with the British Computing Society, working towards our charterships. So the hope is that we can use some of these skills to work with the teams to improve underperforming areas, and we'll be a part of that review, and perhaps even include ourselves within the vendor assessments should we need to do that. So going on to Portal's components, there are 7 components that make up Portal. These are our information services, so the ways in which we deliver data through Portal. So we have the map, which I'm just going to basically be the slide here. So this is our fleet overview. You hopefully all have seen the map at some point. It's the vessels overlaid on Google Maps. We can show what's happened, what's happening, and what's planned to happen. Now, this is a bespoke component, meaning that we've built it from the ground up. So all of the requirements that we received have come from the business, a lot of them more recently from operations. We then have Power BI, which is a Microsoft product. It's very well established. It's a great data visualization tool and reporting service. You've got paginated reports and dashboards. We focus mostly on dashboards so far, but there's definitely a lot of work that can be done with paginated reporting. We also have documents, which is a bespoke component. So we just use the document component in Portal to store daily reports. So that's the care report, the DORs, the DPRs. We just added in EFRs as well, didn't we? So that's been a really good addition. We've got the digital twin. I've spoken a bit about that already, but that's our asset level 3D model linked to our asset management system, Maximo. We've got custom dashboards, which is another bespoke component, and that's really focused on the rapid development of KPIs, so we can demonstrate control and also change them should we need to as things improve. And then we've got the real-time analytics component, which is focused on Cognify. So that is my PowerPoint slides over. So are there any questions at this point? I'll load up Portal. No? Okay. I will load it up. So we're going to start in Portal's map overview. So this has been renamed recently to Mission Control, and the idea is that the operations department can come in here at any point through the day and know what's happened and what's happening. So just walk you through this. This went through quite a big revamp over the last couple of months. We've now got the ability to add assets. So if we were to add a new rig, it would be very easy for us to add that. We've got all of the fleet listed here along the top bar. You can obviously click on the rigs as well to access the dashboards. Aberdeen covers our fleet. So anything that is like fleet specific, we've got some fleet specific reports, and any KPIs you want to view at sort of a high level. Aberdeen covers the full fleet. So Aberdeen's obviously concerned with what's happening globally, not just with what's happening on one particular rig. So we called this Aberdeen, but another suitable name would have been Fleet. So from here, we've got today visual groups, which includes our operational uptime for the last 24 hours. We've got any LTI or HSE events listed, and we've also got the activities that have been logged on the main well as well. So we've also got some reports up here. We've got the daily fleet summary report, detailed report. We've got the look ahead as well, which comes out every Monday, and then we've got a weekly and non-productive time report as well. And then on the right-hand side, we've got our scorecard, which is what is brought up during the Rig Manager objectives. So we're constantly showing everyone, how we're performing year to date across these key areas. Can you guys read that? Okay, it's quite dim, isn't it? Could maybe just the lights or something going on. So then we've got the rigs, and these are obviously specific views that are focused on the selected vessel. So again, similar visual groups we've got today, we've got yesterday, we've got the asset overview, and we've got some real-time dashboards as well. Now, this is a third-party service, and it does take a little bit of time to load. We do have plans to build something ourselves in the future, but there's a few projects ongoing at the moment looking at real-time data and how we offer this to third parties and provision it in a format that is more usable. So we've got screens covering the main well, so we can see what's happening right now on the main well. We get a little feed indicator, and we can see the various symbols and labels, I should say, that cover, the top drive torque, block height, top drive speed, and then we've got weight on bit, head load, and standpipe pressure. Can you tell me what's happening, Doug? Tripping. There you go. So we've also got the aux well, which is just loading in, and we've got a days versus depth as well. So this is actually stuff that David worked on with the operations department. There were some screens already created, but we portalized them, if you like, so that they would fit in with our branding and styling. So yeah, we've got all the fleet listed here. We've also introduced recently a play button so that you go into a demo mode, and the plan is over the next couple of weeks around the different departments. And for those clever touches that don't get probably enough use, the plan is that we're going to put Portal up on those screens in demo mode. So we'll just flick through the fleet in the background, and hopefully, we'll start some conversations that otherwise might not have taken place. So, are there any questions on mission control and the map?
Does everybody have access to everything?
Yeah, so we really push for visibility with Portal. So most of the components in Portal are visible, and for those that are like hidden or managed, you're still able to see that they exist, and you can just request access. So we have set up what we call component owners. I spoke through the 7 components there, and for things that are more sensitive, we've identified a component owner. And as a viewer in Portal, you can request access from a component owner. So if there are things that are hidden, you still have the ability to see what it's about, and you can request access. I think I actually approved an access request just before lunchtime to the Stena Dawn Anchor tension report for real-time analytics. So people do use that service. But yeah, we really push to have things as visible as we can be, and there's barely any pushback with a lot of that. When it comes to sharing things with clients, we'll obviously do it in a controlled manner with the client filter that we spoke about. But yeah, everything within here is visible. And if there are things that aren't visible, we can actually still add them in here, or just have a little box that says restricted access, and you can just easily request access, and maybe you'll get it. Okay, so going forward to custom dashboards. This is probably my pride and joy in Portal. This is where we develop our KPIs from. So when you come into here, the default is the year to date, and it gives us a view of the full fleet. So on the left-hand side, we've got our pillars, I should say our pillar groups. I'll maybe just speak through those briefly. So we've got Achieve a Stena Drilling Perfect Day, which is one of our HSE pillars. We've got our best-in-class operations performance, and these are our Cat 1 IDS KPIs. So typically our operator wants to know about these figures. They want to know what is our operational uptime. So we can give them that stat at the fleet, or we can give them that stat for a particular rig. Any rig I should pick, Stuart? Karen. Okay, so we can see, operational uptime 95.69%. Our target is to get this above 98%, so we can see that we're 2.4% below the target. So our best-in-class operations performance covers our category 1 KPIs that cover basically what's happening on the drill floor. And if we've had any NPT, that's available from here as well. We've also got our innovation KPIs. I think if you look at this from the full fleet, we now have resolved the implementation flag. Is that right, David?
Yeah.
So I think you can maybe for the previous year, it's this easy to flick through these dashboards. You've got the vessel picker here on the left-hand side, and then you've got your date range picker. You also have like a free date range picker here, but I'd always recommend using these three fields where you can pick between the current and previous, and then you basically just select the period that you want to pick across. And this is important because our targets are mapped to these time-based periods. So if you don't use these three pickers here and instead use this date range picker, the targets will disappear. So I would always advise people to use the date range picker if you can. So very simple to run through that. So yeah, we've got our maintain safe working environment as well, which is again some of the HSE KPIs and protect our environment, which is Andrew Calderwood's area. But it's of course everyone's job to make sure we're being as efficient as we can, not just with fuel, but with all of our resources. So there's a couple of KPIs that have been added to keep a control on that and to demonstrate control as well. So for these KPIs, just to walk you through, this is one of the visuals that we've created. It's called a visual card. So we have got the title, Perfect Days. If you hover over the title, it'll tell you a description about what that KPI is looking at and focusing on. We've then got a result here, which is our 778 out of 798. So that gives us our compliance score of 97.46%. We can see well, we've got our little box here. We can see that we're within the amber range at the moment. So we've got color statuses for red, amber, and green. Red below target, amber within our tolerance range. So for some KPIs, we've set a banding which we allow tolerance for. We're not going to be perfect all the time. We accept that things do happen. It's important though that we reflect on those things when they do go wrong. So we'll show that from here with the compliance score, and we can see that the target set is 98.35%, which is again based on how we've managed to perform historically. So it is aligned with SMART acronyms: specific, measurable, achievable, so on. And we can see here, if we hover over this little tick icon, maybe you can see at the back of the room, what we've got a little tick here that indicates that this KPI has been verified by Paul McDonald last week at 11:34 a.m. So this is our hope that for all of these KPIs that we'll have the head of departments sign them off. And what we do as part of that process is we create a KPI based on something that we pretty much do today, something that we are already monitoring, but perhaps through a manual process. And then we will check that our calculation results match the historic results. And then when we're happy with them, we go and have a meeting with the head of departments and we get them to sign off on it. So we did that for HSE last week, and those 13 KPIs have now been signed off. So as well as having the ability to view the high level results in here, we also have the ability to drill down. So if we click on one of these drill downs, it will bring up the results. So this is looking at operational uptime. So within here, we can see the NPC events that have occurred. We can see that their total duration and the dates that they spanned over, and we can customize this completely as well. So this is the view that was requested from the operations team. So it gives us immediate results, and we don't crunch this every morning, before you all up. This happens overnight. It's all automated. So once we build it, then we can move on to something new. So this is the start of something, and like I said, I would like to work with departments on this further to create their own dashboards, whether they are general visibility or private. We'll be able to hopefully meet the needs there with this new component. We also recently added the ability to share reports from here. So this is worth testing perhaps when you get a chance. So from here we can share a report, and this will basically collate all the results that are available on that custom dashboard, and it will present them in this little window here. We can select all of the results that we want to include, and then when I click send report, it will send me a report. I can give it a subject, and then that will just come to me as an email. And then if I want to email it to someone to ask a question, or if I want to perhaps make a comment against, let's say, number of perfect days, why are we not perfect all the time? Something like that, I can write that in there, and then that would be sent out to me on that email. So it's maybe the start of a conversation from there. So that's a new service that was just introduced this week, and that will again help with the rig manager sessions as well. Hopefully people will be able to come with a printout of their results, and if we need to bring up Portal to look at the results in further detail, despite the details actually being shown within here, we'll be able to do that too. And where possible, we've also linked to the source systems. So for example, for high potential near misses, this would send me a report. It would have a hyperlink on that result, and that would take me directly into the Synergy event. So I'll be able to get to further information if I so needed to. So that's quite useful to have. So I've not looked at my notes at all for that one, but I think I've covered it. Power BI is probably the next one, unless there's any questions on this.
Yeah, couple from me, Harry. See the figures that's displayed in the KPI boxes there. Are they live? So if we were actually tripping at that time, will that update as we're tripping, or is that from the day before? Or
so this is looking at drilling states that we get from IDS. So whenever a state occurs offshore, we log that state. So throughout the day, I think we take data from IDS for I think maybe 6 times. Chloe can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is looking at the average tripping time, slip-to-slip connections running in hole between the state range. So it's looking at the average tripping time for the current year for the full fleet. So it's probably not a good KPI to look at for the full fleet. You probably want to look at it for a specific vessel.
Okay. And can is it all just filtered by date? You can't filter by well.
Filter by what, sorry?
Filter by well name.
Well, if you know, yeah. So, well, if you know what date range that well was over, then you can always use the dynamic date picker to pick the start and end dates of that well. But we have the option within here as well to add new parameters. So we've added in like start and end date. But we also have vessel ID, but we could add another parameter to another dashboard that was well. So you would actually be able to select through all of the distinct or unique wells that are logged within IDS. So that is absolutely feasible. It's something that we've actually spoken with Andrew Parker about as a perfect well. It's something that the clients want us to quite frequently present on, and it doesn't just include tripping and drilling KPIs, it also includes our HSC KPIs. So if that's something you'd like to see, then yeah, please just reach out and we'll try to add in a new parameter for that one.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
I've got a question, Harry. So that's 6 rigs, and you go on 6 different dashboards. How, or is there a option to look at the fleet, or what does that look like? Because it's pretty good for the rig managers and teams that are sporting one rig, but when it's a fleet, how do we? For example, where we sent today on who's the rig with the most dropped objects, other than going through the 6 dashboards?
Yeah, so we did create another custom dashboard called scorecards. And again, the way we've built these measures, I'll actually come on and show you just how that happens in a moment. But we built scorecards here. So I'm not a huge fan of the layout of this. I think we can make it better. But this will show you the results side by side for various areas. So we can see for the current month, yeah, we've got Stena Don is the only rig that, oh no, sorry, we've also got the Stena Ice Max as well that hasn't had some perfect days. So we can see a side-by-side comparison.
So all the info from the individual rig dashboard is on that
also
dashboard?
On here as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And it refers to the same underlying queries as well. So the idea with what we did back in May 2024 was we wanted to basically have it if we built a KPI query, we could reuse it across portal. So I think we've probably got around 100 KPIs or queries, and from those 100 queries, we've developed I think over 800 visuals. So they're built on the same results, if you like. So if you look at it in one place, you'll get the same result in another place. It's just important to look at the header because sometimes it's looking at a specific date range or a specific vessel. Of course, some scorecards, there's no vessel filter, you've just got a date picker, so it's showing you all the rigs side by side. But if you get another rig, we'll be in trouble because running out of space. We can obviously tweak things. Like I say, it's our product, so we can make it as we need to. Does that answer your question?
Good.
Okay. Any others? No? Okay. And
I've got one more.
Go on.
Yeah. And I forget what you say. How do you request access then? Because I was speaking to somebody this morning, and it was a supply chain dashboard, and it wasn't visible. So how do you actually? How's it exercised to get that? And what do you know what's invisible if you're not seeing it? Or what could be visible to you?
Good question. Yeah. So this was actually it has a problem in a lot of organisations. People will put in requests for things that are actually already created. They just don't have visibility of them. So there is a really secure filter that we can use to basically hide components so that they're just visible to a very select audience. But there's nothing in Portal, I think, at the moment that complies with that. I basically just use that to manage new services before they're ready to be released.
But is it through Portal?
It's
that
through Portal, yeah.
wait,
So
is it
I can't really show you because
Okay.
I'm an admin. So
Yeah.
I can.
But there's
see
a
across
request
things.
button to
There is,
request
yeah,
for. Okay.
yeah. So you would see a modal, it would say you don't have access, a little lock symbol
Yeah.
would appear over it, and it would say, type in your request here, and that will be sent to the component owner. So that
Okay.
will send them an email. I got one this morning, and it basically says an action in Portal, and it says the request description that has been submitted as well. So a lot of the time it can just say, I'm just curious, which is fine. It can often start a Teams call to find out, okay, what are you looking to sort of find here? Because it might not be applicable, or it might be. So you can do that all through the application. There's nothing additional that needs to be done. If there was something this morning that you didn't have access to, just let me know.
Well, I didn't know it. Anyway, we'll move on.
We can have a look.
I'm learning.
Yeah. So yeah, custom dashboards comprise of visuals, measures, and visual groups. We can come to these KPI results, and we can click on the measure, and these are our queries effectively to our data warehouse. Now this is SQL code written by, I think this one's written by yourself, Chloe. So within here we can see the different conditions that make up our operational uptime query. So we can see in here we're looking at different class codes: productive time, downtime, and non-productive time. There is a difference, and then we're looking at the productive time and non-productive time aspects as part of that. So we use that to then create a result that we display as operational uptime on this KPI. So this is a really good interface for people in our department and others that are willing to learn to sort of explore and interact with the data. And from here we can see on the right hand side, this is where we can access our data warehouse. So we've got Maximo Care, we've got AIS, which is our positional data, we've got Synergy. And from here, with the right permissions, of course, you can access the data yourself, and you can look through the different events that have occurred. We can see from here. I'll go onto the pics. We can see here distinct fields, distinct dates, distinct case types, for example, if I can find it. So you can see in here, increase the description. Anyway, you can explore and interact with the data before trying to use it. So obviously, we are always trying to build an understanding of the data before we go and ask the subject matter experts questions. So it's a really good tool that enables us to sort of query the data and to familiarize ourselves with it before we try to build anything from it. So it's a really good service to have in the app. And like I said, this was all previously in the back end before, so we didn't have access to it. It was quite difficult to make changes if we needed to, and we have had to make quite a lot of changes with the fleet objectives as we've gone back and spoken with heads of departments. So being able to quickly update things and make changes within here is something that we can do with relative ease. And of course, if we want to change the targets as well, we can come to the visuals, and we've got a whole setting page here for setting targets, and we can set targets against those different date periods that I spoke about before. So we can set the value, we can set the units, we can set what is a positive result above or below, and we can set a tolerance as well. So it's a really useful tool for us to develop KPIs, as I said, in a quick fashion. So
that's only for admin users that can do that.
We have for the likes of the finance KPIs that we have to produce. Angus McDonald, he is quite proficient with working with data as well. So we've actually given Angus his own custom dashboard. And we've given him access to just, I can just show you quickly. So this is our KPI testing environment. Angus probably hasn't had a chance to go in here quite yet. But we can see from within here, we have got a restricted view. So before in fleet objectives, we've had quite a big view of the different schemas, but from within here, we've only got visibility over a few. So we've got Maximo, Synergy, and independent services as well. So we're going to add in a finance area for Angus to work on his KPIs. So if there's a specific, thing that you want to look at, and if you want to be given a chance to work with the data more freely, then we can facilitate that. We have a whole service that we can manage access through. So it's still done in a secure manner. And we do speak with the data owners before we sort of integrate new services. So that all happens within there, and it's quite a slick tool. I think it's worked so far. Moving on. Any questions further I should ask? Yeah.
Just about the head count. Obviously, that's a KPI that we have to have for the client.
Yeah.
So is that something that's being expected, or is it already there?
It's not in here yet, but that's a KPI that we wanted to look at adding to like the HR custom dashboard that we've talked about building. So is that to do with contractual obligations for crew? Yeah. So we did actually add that to the digital twin, but of course we just have a digital twin of Stena Karen, but that looks at the contractual crew model and it looks at the occupied or filled positions for onboard tracker. So we do a match up to see, okay, this person is only onboard tracker, but we need like 6 of this person to fulfill our contractual obligations. So it will show you your compliance out of, you know, the expected result as well. So that is something that we can definitely look to work on. We're working on the CAS and training KPIs at the moment, and I think once we've got connected to OBT, we'll be able to start looking at the stuff in more detail and look at it on like a day-to-day basis as well. But we do have within mission control, if I just flick back here quickly, you can see Stena DrillMax, we've got the asset overview visual group, and within here we've got the total POB, and you can see the current Stena POB as well. So yeah, total is 138. So if you actually click on this one, most of the results that we've built in here, they are clickable. They've got drill downs, so you can come in here and you can search for the various positions and the people filling those positions as well. So to show you that working, so there's a couple of Scots on board at the moment. So that's a good way to look at that, I guess, if you want to look at something today. But we definitely want to build KPIs around some of this stuff as well, especially when it comes to client expectations. So the next component that I was going to talk briefly about was Power BI. And our hope is that, you know, for failing KPIs, we'll spin up a Power BI report that will look at the data in more detail, because it's only when you've got access to the data that you can really get into the weeds with it and ask better questions over, you know, where are we sort of not doing as well as we could, where are the issues or rather opportunities. So the Power BI reports we have, you can use a search to get there as well. We've got a few, we've got care statistics. This is one that you worked on, James, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A wee while ago.
Not a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So yeah, care statistics is one of our Power BI reports. I think we've got about 16 Power BI reports in Portal. And James has done a great job of making sure that the layout across Power BI reports is the same. I think it's predominantly yourself and Angus and David, you produced a Power BI report as well. So each of the Power BI reports follows a fairly consistent layout. So we have the landing page, which is our summary page. We then have a few detailed pages as well. And yeah, you've got the filters, haven't you, James, so they sort of function in the same way. So if we are going between Power BI reports, we try to minimize relearning the interface, if you like. So we tried to make that as simple as possible. But you can see we've had a large number of care cards submitted. Has this got a filter on it, James?
I don't think so, but if you like right click on one of the bars in the bar chart, or if you want to clear the filters,
Well, I was looking at
just
it.
click reset.
Yeah,
Underneath the filter button.
so you can see we've had 800,000 care cards reported since we launched the new system, and that's part of Nexus. So all of those care cards come into here, and it does give us good stats. And yeah, the hope is that, you know, HSC and other teams go in here and look at the stats, look at the type of care cards that are being reported, and review whether, you know, this is something that is expected, or is it something that we can improve on. And the hope is that, you know, with having the data available, you can ask those questions. Is there anything else I should cover on Power BI?
The key advantage of having Power BI Portal is that in the past, every single Power BI page had to be emailed to you with a URL, with a link. And if we updated it in any way or renamed it or moved its location in Power BI service, we'd have had to send you another link. And so you had a folder of bookmarks you were constantly having to update. It was an absolute nightmare. And in this case, it's always going to exist in the one location. We'll deal with all the underneath the hood stuff, and you'll only ever find it in that one place. And it's all you ever have to worry about. Sometimes you'll find a Power BI page in here that you won't have access to, and you'll have to request access. So click that button, and Harry or myself or someone else on the team will be able to just.
You can access the documents on Mission Control by going through the document queries that we've written. So the DRI and DPR reports are available from there. We've got the real-time analytics as well. I showed you some of that. I've showed us or highlighted what was happening on the main well. We've also got the Hawks well as well. So there's a few real-time analytics reports that are available, and then we've got the digital twin. So if there's any questions, I can answer them.
I've got a question. Looking at the care card data, because you know, 800,000 cards.
Yeah.
But that account's not benefit to anyone. The real value in it is seeing what trends are within that card? Are you looking at like any of the, like using AI and machine learning to actually inspect what's in these cards to see if there are any trends or?
Yeah, there is a project. There is a project going on at the moment. I think HSC are involved in that one. So every day they will have like an AI component that will basically look through the care cards that have been submitted, and it will provide like a summary overview if there's any sort of deviation from like the expected or the norm. But there are, plenty of tools that can be used to look at this data in further detail. But until we've got KPIs set up to say, well, we don't want to have this many, corrected cards, or we don't want to have this many corrected cards of this type, then you can't really start to ask questions, because you need to put that control first in place to basically say this is something that we want to manage. So you're right, we've got a report in there that contains all the care cards, but really you need to start building control around that massive data set to say, well, what are our expectations here? Are we, setting any targets on the type of care cards that we want to have submitted, and are there sort of any deviations from the norm?
There's another project that's going on with Mahan Rad, a guy that works at Group IT in Gothenburg. He's trying to develop a machine learning on care card data. And then he's going to develop a sort of interface in a new care system that can interpret the cards as they come in, so we don't have to have that pretty burdensome task in the morning going through like 400 cards a day, picking up the best ones. But
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that, to be honest.
yeah,
You've got 2 data scientists here, haven't you? Like, I did a night class in computing and data science, and they showed you how to use raw data to track trends and to find patterns and stuff. So why are we waiting for the AB to do it for?
Mahan's part of the team. Mahan's the developer of the care system.
Oh, right, okay.
He's worked with care since day one. So he's like,
I've got another question.
Go for it.
Who's using Portal day to day, like onshore? I can get why clients would want to see it, and like they're asking to see stuff, but which departments are using Portal day to day to look at the data that's being shown?
Well, we do have usage statistics for Portal, and I don't look at them probably as often as I should, but I do look at them, once a month, to see how things are sort of trending. And yeah, surprisingly, offshore are actually the predominant users of Portal. I've spoken with a lot of the operational performance leads recently, and I think they're starting now to get, the idea behind Portal, how it will sort of enable them to not be focusing on crunching the numbers, but just talking about the results and interfacing with clients as well on that. So there's quite a bit of usage from the guys offshore from various departments, but there's definitely more that needs to be done there, and more that needs to be built for those guys. But I would say operations with the instruction and mission control, I think that's been of value. It's probably the best view of like what's happened yesterday, today, and what's planned to happen. So there's a lot of information there that is quite useful for you guys to discuss, like on a day-to-day basis. It's got your non-productive time. It's got what's happening on the main org as well. There's good focuses on this stuff. So that was the question.
Question for Stuart. Do you use it day to day?
Me personally, not so much, but I know the rig manager and ops guys for their specific asset are more using it, because it's for an overview of 6 rigs. I'm more using IDS for a one snapshot an hour before a meeting and let's go on. So I don't need to know that they're tripping at that speed at midday, but I know the performance guys are definitely using that in day-to-day discussions with their clients.
Yeah.
So there's some day-to-day usage, but there's also some, longer time periods as well.
Exactly.
Like once a quarter, or once a year. But
Exactly.
This stuff runs day-to-day as well. So if you know something's happened, you can see it's happened immediately in Portal, and then you can perhaps have a conversation, offline or out with Portal.
But I know, for example, the client will say, oh, it's a particularly slow trip, or what was the issues, and the guys will go straight in there and, okay, it was that percentage, that speed, and they can say, yeah, we see it as well, and okay, forget out what's happened.
So they use that over IDS if you run through the clients.
Well, IDS isn't going to have a speed that you've tripped at for the last 24 hours, but this will.
Right.
So it'll tell you this is what we did in the 24 hours line by line, and we tripped in from X to A to B and from that depth, but speed wise,
It's not necessarily about, focusing on one particular system. The Portal's unique in the fact that it shows you the results from one system along with the results from 7 other systems. So it gives you results in the context of other things that are going on, and that's kind of what we're sort of working to build. Is giving everyone a better view of what's happened. Because it's like impossible to log into all these systems every day
Yeah.
and see what's happened, whereas a portal is doing that and providing it as a service, for you with targets set, if they've been provided. So it gives you like a view that was historically quite challenging, if not impossible to deliver.
The mission controls, you come into our department, the next screen in there's got that mission control running at the time. And he asked me just now what was going on. I've been doing this stuff for so many years, it's pattern recognition. You just look at, by the shape, exactly what's going on. So we actually use it subliminally a lot of the time, not just the, quite often it gets a bit competitive as well.
It is a bit, there is an aspect of that, we are looking to sort of drive competition and to sort of give everyone a greater awareness of what's going on so that we can sort of hold each other accountable and also demonstrate control when things are working, and perhaps, above the targets that we've set. So hopefully you've seen some of that.
Kirsty's got a question online.
Yeah.
Hi, it was just to add in response to James's question, accounts, we use the portal quite a lot in conjunction with the rig managers and the chief engineers to track the budgets, because we find that the Maximal budgeting tool is not really up to scratch for tracking those sort of costs. So personally, we're in probably every day looking at coding of items, POs that have been raised, making sure that we can catch everything right from the start of the chain rather than letting it flow through to our accounts before we can fix it. So that's just kind of an example of where other departments are using it as well, that we find it really worthwhile.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, hopefully as time goes on, it will become more useful to more people. I mean, it's not, I've explained some of the journey that we've been on. It's only really since the start of 2024 that we've had a better access to some of our systems. So it's really about now getting in the requirements and also, hopefully when we push it to clients, then they'll also give us requirements and things they want to see as well. And then it'll be a good collaboration tool for both us and the client. And we won't be focused on crunching numbers, we'll be focused on actual performance and improvement of it. But I would say, I look at the usage statistics and I look at distinct logins every day, and we're averaging around 60 to 70 distinct logins every day. So that's like 70 different people that are logging in, mostly multiple times a day, to look at various things. So good to see, but it's definitely just a start. There's a lot of people employed at Stena Drilling. I would like to see more sort of engagement with the tool, but as a part of that is on me. And I'm hoping that, when I go around the departments in the next couple of weeks and we put Paul up on the screen like it is in operations, that people will be a little bit more curious and, have some questions that they want to ask themselves over their own areas. So that's kind of what we're working towards. And I think now we're in a good place, and especially when we've got the graduates as well, like you said, with their backgrounds, to sort of ask some of the harder questions, maybe not just look at summary stats. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Anything else? I don't know what time it is. My laptop did actually die.
Don't think, yeah, but hours.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good. Anyone else on Teams?
One more from me, Harry. Does the daily driller KPI reports go into portal yet?
There is the daily DPR, daily performance reports. Is that what you're referring to?
No, we started quite recently, these daily driller KPI reports. It was to get the teams offshore focused more on performance. It's like an Excel format sheet to say.
Okay, no, we typically are just showing like PDF reports, so like static reports, that get generated every day, these sort of morning reports, if you like. So if it's a morning report that we can add into Portal, then we'll do that. We've got the ability to do that with relative ease now. Like I said, we added in the EFRs just last week, and those will be available hopefully tomorrow once we make a little change. So if you've something you'd like to see, we can add it in. I mean, it's your tool. So if there's things you want to see added to it, you can let us know.
Yeah, no, I'll speak to Andrew as well. It might be good just to have everything in one place, all the reports. So it'd be good to add in, I think.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Harry,
is there current plans to develop the Power BI dashboards and make changes in there? Because I'll be honest, I use Synergy more than anything for the Synergy dashboards, because you can manipulate the data, you can extract a lot more detailed data than you can in these dashboards. Is there any
Yeah,
plans?
no, we're not. Yeah, we're not seeking to replace, Synergy with Portal. We're just seeking to provide a view for others that might not have a view, and to like I said before, to show the Synergy results in the context of our operational KPIs and energy KPIs and others. So if there's changes that we want to make, like we do have the HSC statistics report that is pretty much built on Synergy data. If there's things that needed to be added on in there, like frequently requested results, we can either add them there, or if there's particular KPIs, then we can look to add those at the next fleet objective review meeting as well, and perhaps make them bigger KPIs. Good. Okay. Anyone else?
Thank
All
you
good.
very much.
Cheers for that. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Harry.
Thanks very
Thanks.
much.
Bye.